Welcome to my community on Afrocentric Television, channel 15.8. This is a station that brings about the African community in diaspora, especially here in Houston. But today, it's not going to be about Houston alone. It's been 59 years since Nigeria gained independence, and we became a republic in 1963. And since then, you would think things would have take a turn to be better, or, we should be like the next best thing that would happen in the world. I hope so too. But, there are conflicts here and there. And, we just want to talk about Nigeria. And today, to do that, I have three very, very important people to me personally, and they are friends of the studio as well. In the name of Professor Patrick Omar Osage. He is a lecturer. You all know him. He's a lecturer. He's of African history in North American universities, both in the United States and Canada. And also Mr. Ehosa Edebo. He is a co-publisher of Christian Herald and the president of Sion Communication. It's a PR and marketing company. And thirdly, we have Mr. Ishola Balogun, the United Democratic Party, UDP presidential candidate, and also the convener of We the People. He is also the CEO of Amen TV. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
No, thanks. Welcome.
Well, I will say this. I am the newest generation here, so I will have to fight for my being as a Nigerian. And that's not what I'm here for, by the way. But, we just want to talk about our country. Well, a country we love so much. I believe you love the country so much, you decided you want to take on the baton to run as, to become the president in this last election. What triggered that, if I may ask?
Well, running for a position in any society is always triggered by the desire to elicit change. I mean, for me, the direction Nigeria has been going for the past 59 years is actually backwards. You have to look in the rear view mirror of the Nigerian vehicle to see the best days of Nigeria. And having been somebody that's lived in the United States for the past 40 years, I've seen how democracy works. It's complex, it's not easy. But it is still man's greatest creation when it comes to governing each other. So I wanted to see if I could take some of my experiences from the United States and infuse it into the Nigerian political system. Because I'm one of those people that for the past 40 years that I've lived in America, I've always questioned, why exactly am I here? As a religious person, a Christian, I always ask myself, if God wanted me to be an American, why didn't he just make me an American from the beginning?
Birth?
So there's a juxtaposition there. There's something there that I'm supposed to learn from America that I should take to Nigeria. I started the journey in 2019. It's by no means over. We're still going forward. So wherever it ends, only God will tell. But yes, we started the journey to bring change to Nigeria, to emancipate the Nigerians, and we'll keep fighting until we achieve it. Thank you.
Mr. Ehosa Edebo, you are a publisher. What would you say about Nigeria? He says something, you look at the review of the mirror, and that's what you're seeing, Nigeria backwards, right? What is your perception of that?
That's almost like a universal acceptance of this backward trend. And I think we were having a conversation back there, and those of us that had the opportunity to see the early part of the country saw a lot of hope. There was a time University of Ibadan was ranked in the whole world in terms of, we all grew up with University of Ife, Nsukka, Ahmadu Bello. And to me, I think education is still a part of where we are not doing very well back home. That is a part of our problem. Because that's a place where you groom your leaders, either in the business world, the economic, political. But we don't have any of those institutions, running. So I totally agree that we are not moving forward. And please, it has nothing to do with you at just 59 years. Because if you're on the wrong track, if you go for 1,000 years, you're not going to come back on track. So we need to figure out what parameters we are going to use to really have the country, Nigeria, that we all love so much.
Prof, you have been in the you have lived in Nigeria, you have lived in Canada, you've lived in the United States. What is your take on this?
Well, that's not a huge question, but you see, of all three countries, obviously Nigeria is the most complex. Canada is really a straightforward country. I mean, Mr. Balogun has also said the United States, I mean, has shown us, I mean, for those of us that have lived here for quite some time too, you have seen they have mistakes or things go wrong, but they're correctable. They do correct their mistakes. They all have internal mechanisms to correct things that they do wrong. That is the one thing in Nigeria that we've not been able to find. We don't self-correct. I mean, he's talked about education system. You know, the educational system has been broken for years now. I attended University of Ife. I mean, obviously now, Bafemi Awolowo.
Yeah, that's because I was going to say, you were in Ife, I was in OAU.
You know, but I tell everybody that in '78 when I entered Ife, I had actually made my complaints known to my fellow students that this isn't going to last. Within the semester of us being in Ife in '78, the dining halls were closed. That means the government was running out of money. It was becoming obvious that things were going wrong. But everybody wanted to stay on the same track that, you know, the government is capable of paying for every single thing we do. And our population continues to grow. Now, without any doubt, the biggest problem Nigeria faces today is that we've been unable to use numbers to serve. I mean, numbers do serve a purpose in everybody's life. If it's the numbers when it comes to money, or just how you do things, the number of children you want to have, the number of cars, houses, and all that. We are unable to use numbers properly. And that is creating serious problems. We don't have 200 million people, even though the best economists, I mean, that I have always talked to, I mean, the late Professor Sam Aluko has always said he doesn't think we are the number we always say. He always thinks that we're about 20 to 30% lower in population number
which is possible.
Cited. But nevertheless, even if we were 150 million, that's still a huge number. And we haven't planned well socially to use that number, and that is why we're in deep, deep trouble.
So, and you three said something. Your generation, you enjoyed certain things. This new generation, I mean, I don't know, but we didn't get to enjoy as much. If you were born in the 70s, 80s, you could still say, okay, I enjoyed free education, I did this and did that. Do you think one of the causes or one of the main reasons why things are deteriorating is because we are still fighting for one Nigeria? Do you think Nigeria was ripe enough at the time to take a stand or to rule itself as a country when we gain independent? I'll give you a take on that. You are the historian here, so.
I don't want to say that we're still fighting for most fights in anywhere in the world. The fight you fight is always because of limited resources. So you're fighting over resources. There's a limitation to money or to oil or to whatever, or to even land. A lot of fights around, even in old Nigeria, the Yoruba land, is you're fighting for land, you know. So I think the problem with Nigeria is that at a certain time, again, using the numbers, our population keeps going up and then the money we're making keeps going down. So that is always going to be that conflict. There's always going to be the internal conflict of not having enough to go around.
But Prof, we have more than enough natural resources in Nigeria. To me, I believe we have a lot of natural resources. And then one of the reasons why I asked my previous question was, it's concentrated in some region, and some other regions are rich in other things, right? Would you, sir, you ran recently, would you say you believe in one Nigeria, or should Nigeria go its own way, like the north should be in the north, the east in the east, the west or southwest in the west, where we have, first off, there's a conflict somewhere, somehow. we have three major languages or tribes, they call it, Yoruba, Hausa, and Igbo, correct? And under each, there are lots and lots of ethnicity, right? That is creating barriers. And then where does, in this whole Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, where does the middle belt, where do they belong?
Nigeria.
Yeah, that's it.
I have to say emphatically that under no circumstance will I ever subscribe to the partitioning or the breakup of Nigeria.
I agree with you.
Under no circumstance.
I agree too.
Nigeria's relevance in the world, for whatever its inadequacies are, is because of its size. Break up Nigeria, and no offense to people from Burkina Faso or Togo or whatever. You break up Nigeria and we become a Burkina Faso. We become irrelevant. Any of the little ones that you break us up into, we are definitely not Monaco. So I will never advocate the breakup of Nigeria. And citing the various languages and the religions and everything inside Nigeria as a reason to advocate for breakup, I always use this example. Every language spoken inside Nigeria today and every religion practiced in Nigeria today is practiced in America.
Right.
And that constitutes less than 1% of all the languages spoken in America. And America is still the most united country in the world.
I agree.
So those are not the indices of struggles. The index is a united purpose, respect for each other's relevance, the contribution that we all bring to the table for a united Nigeria. So I don't advocate breakup. Breakup is wrong. And the way we look at Nigeria, by the time we finish talking about this topic today, I think we'll be able to take a different look.
I'm very,
where
very
Nigeria
hopeful.
is.
I'm very, very hopeful.
Yeah.
Having said that, what happened to the quota system? The quota system does not favor everybody. So let's assume Professor Osagi and I were in school. We started education. We were born the same year. We started school the same year. By the time we get to the to the right common entrance, the favoritism kicks in. It becomes, because he's from the south and I'm from the north, he gets his score can be 200 over 300, and he will still not get into college because the cutoff mark was 250. And I only scored 57 over 300. The cutoff for my region is only 50, and I made 57. I'm able to get into a higher institution. He was unable to, by the way. And let's say by chance, he tried it the following year, he got in, right? He got into college. Now we're graduating. He still did better than I did. He made first class or 2-1. I just came up with an ordinary pass. But because I know somebody and the power belongs to us in the north, I'm just using myself as a northerner now. I get a good job, very good placement. I can't even survive in that placement. But he's still struggling to make things work for himself, right? If he was a lawyer, probably carrying files for somebody in the courthouse. If he was an engineer, he's probably a low-ranking engineer if ever he got a job. Now, he finally was able to get a visa lottery to the United States or to Canada, or UK, somewhere. Within 5 years, he exceeded all expectations. He was able to blossom. And here I am. Now he comes back. When he comes back, I am flaunting because I'm a big man now in Nigeria, having nothing, not so exposed, but because of influence, I was able to get to where I'm at. Now he's intellectually sound. He has done well for himself, and he wants to come back to run. Don't you think I will kick against him, knowing that he's too smart? I would kick against him doing something in Nigeria. That is what I'm trying to establish here. Like, okay, so why would the quota system favor some region and not the other?
I think what I've always said is that for Nigeria to succeed, we have to see it as our country. and we all have a stake in its well-being and its survival. And right now, that's not what is happening because, like you rightly said, some are special Nigerians than others. You have a situation where there will be an accident and 30 people will die, and you don't even hear about it anywhere, you know. And somebody's son will be riding a motorcycle on his own, he falls down, and the country almost comes to a standstill. So the point I'm trying to make is that we need to see Nigeria as our country and need to have a buy-in in the well-being. See, part of the problem is that the country almost from the beginning has been run by by individuals. You have Awolowo, you have Zik, you have Jonathan, President Jonathan. Instead of having systems in place, meaning that you see systems you can improve, but if it's just individuals, no matter how efficient that individual is, if he dies, which he will,
he's gone.
then the whole thing is gone.
I like that part, which you will.
Yeah, no,
because
he
we will all die.
Yes, we
right?
all die. So what I'm trying to say is that we need to see that that's our country, and we need to find a way to make it work. It's as simple as that.
In other countries, he said something at the beginning. Governments, everything is being run by either the taxes and money made from natural resources and all of those things. You see it go to work, right? In a country when even they taxing you, but you can't even, you said I should make my car road worthy, but is the road car worthy? You get what I'm saying? So how let's leave the quota system for a second. You want
okay?
Because I'm trying to get somewhere with this.
We need to talk about the quota system because of the way we have misrepresented it over the years. Thank God we have a professor here. When I went to school several hundred years ago, you either grade on points or on a curve. What we are doing in Nigeria is we're grading on a curve. If he's a genius and he comes from Imo State, he's probably going to lose out in Imo State. The person in Zamfara with 14 points, if he's at the top of the curve, he gets in. So we've got to decide, are we grading on points or on curve? And historically, we've always graded on curve. Now, one thing you didn't say was, when the guy from the north goes to university and he makes, what did they do, third level?
I said it passed.
Whatever, he passed. He made class 1, but the guy passed. Problem solved. Unless you tell me that he failed and they still put him in that position, then we have a problem.
But that happens.
Well, if that happens, you can challenge it, and you will be right. Now,
you challenge the authority in Nigeria?
Of course.
Let me.
I got to learn, sir. I got to learn, sir. Sorry about this.
No, that's fine.
Nigeria is a quota country. Nigeria is a quota country. Talk to any 25-year-old Nigerian today and say, look, I want you to vote in the next election. He will tell you, you can't come to my school to tell me to vote, or you can't tell me to vote on social media. You need to go to the grassroots. They will send you to the village. Because to them, it is only the rural people that vote. They're not supposed to vote. That is a quota system we've created on our own that the government didn't put there for us. Nobody says the Fulani man should be the only one to sell cow. But when Buhari talks about Ruga, instead of the 4 Ijebu boys that don't have a job to couple themselves together and say, okay, we're going to start selling cow, so that when they put the Ruga in Ogun State, it will be for us, not for Fulanis. Instead of us doing that, we start fighting as if Ruga is for Fulanis only. But we made that quota.
But in the East, did he say that? I remember in Enugu, they mentioned that, okay, you know what? If they want to bring it, they can bring it, but it's not going to be by or for the Hausa people.
Well,
it's
but
going
that's
to
what
be.
I'm saying. You can't
We
do-
are going to start rearing
You can't use that
animals.
You can't put that quotient in it that it's not going to be for the. Don't bring that up because nobody's brought it up. Nobody. Look, who do you go to change money from in Nigeria?
Spending.
No, dollar.
No, the dollars.
That's what I'm saying.
You go to Aboki.
No, I go to my guy. He's a Yoruba boy.
You are lucky
Yeah,
because
yeah.
99% of
Well, no, yeah,
It's
I mean,
a good thing you asked me because that's what I was just
no,
going to
no,
say.
but you-
And I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, but look-
99% of them are the Abokis because that's the quota system we've created on our own.
And let me.
Yeah, but I don't agree that we created it
Well,
on our own.
whether we created just
It's what it is.
whether we created it on our own, there's really nothing wrong in actually a quota system.
No.
Because what is a quota system supposed to do? You look at an imbalance in society. Because there's a quota system in America.
Of course.
True.
I mean, and you said it well. I do grade on curves in certain classes. I've taught in a historical black college before. I mean, grading on curve was essential because there's so much imbalance of the students that come in. So you cannot grade everybody the same way
standard.
because your job as a teacher is to raise everybody. And in trying to raise everybody, if you grade in one style, some people are going to flunk out and pull out of school permanently. So you have to find a way to curve it that you raise those that didn't have the standard to be there yet. And that is what we tried to do with the quota system. We saw that the Hausas educationally, or the northern states educationally, there was an imbalance. I remember very clearly, when I read history and political science in Ife, my only goal was to become an ambassador, and I wanted to be in the external service. I couldn't get into the external service because I'm from Old Bendel, of Old Midwest. The place was saturated with Bendelites. The Bendelites were typical civil servants in the Nigerian system. So the advice I was given that you're going to go nowhere because the system will no more favor you because of the state you come from. So I had to make other options, and that's what you're saying. I created my own quota. I went out and tried to do other things. Nothing wrong with the quota system. It's the application of a quota system that could become problematic. It does create problems even here in America at times. But again, like I said, they are self-correcting. The interest of the people.
country always has to be central in those quotas.
Thank you. So
that is where that quota system fails because it's now become a permanent feature, and some people from some parts of the country always has an advantage. And after a while, that quota system does not seem fair or balanced. It's not doing
if you
what
ask
it's
me,
supposed to do.
if you ask me, I would say if I try to let you understand something, I'll educate you on it, right? I think the government should try to do more of that, educating the Nigerian people on the system, on how it is the people themselves that are imposing things on themselves as opposed to be the government.
No, I don't agree. Like Ruga, for instance, the people did not impose it on themselves. The money changing thing, the people did not impose it on themselves because what you'll find out is that some people are doing it. I guarantee you that other people try to do the same. They'll choke them out, like the money changing thing now.
Who will choke them out?
Who's choking them out?
No, hold
the
on.
same people who are making that business work, maybe the central bank people or whatever, will choke them. Will choke the Benin man out.
The
or
Yoruba man.
Well,
Benin. He will choke the Benin man out in Benin.
No. These things. Remember, Nigeria is a country where everything flows from one source, and that's part of the failure of the system. Because you see, even the United States government cannot run successfully the way Nigeria is run. Why am I saying that? Nigeria is the only country I know, and a historian may correct me here, where as a governor of a state, you need to do nothing. Don't worry about resource generation or anything. Just fold your finger. At the end of the month, race to Abuja, collect the money, and come back. And before it even gets to the capital, it's leaked out. You know, that's not a way for people to grow.
So I'll ask this though.
I wanted to say something about that quota system.
Okay, quickly, because I need to.
The dysfunctionality of Nigeria is legendary. We don't want to talk about the Nigerian dysfunctionality. It is the functionality of Nigeria's dysfunctionality that we don't face enough. For instance, now, this quota system you talked about, if Halliburton was in Nigeria, that Hausa man would not even get a job as gate man at Halliburton. That Hausa man that got a quota system to go to university. You see, once you concentrate employment in the hand of the government, then you have to have federal character.
Yeah.
It is the imposition. That is why he's able to come here and excel. If he comes here and he joins the Department of State, he won't excel either because he's not white. But if he comes to America and he joins Brian K. and Root or whatever they call them, McDonnell Douglas, they just want his brain. They don't care about the color of his skin.
Yeah.
He will excel. That's the private sector. Once you go into government service, you give up money, you give up relativity, you give up common sense. It's about the country.
Okay.
In that situation.
So do y'all think, with me now, that ethnicity, tribe, and all of those things, and religion contribute to the failure?
Big time.
No.
I don't.
You publish Christian Herald, a magazine based on Christian ways and livelihood, gospel, whatever, in the United States. And I'm sure you probably have some ads from Nigeria or all over the world as regards to Africa. Do you think that religion plays a role in the failure of our country, Nigeria?
Big time. Big time, because, see, any system that is not run based on efficiency will fail. Why do I say that? Here, it's like Kishola said, they don't care about the color of his skin. They want to know what's in his brain, and that's what they are interested in extracting. But where you have a system whereby it does not, the results do not even matter. That's what I found out in Nigeria. How well, you don't rise in Nigeria because you are efficient. For instance, governors don't get re-elected because they are efficient. They get re-elected because they either have a hookup or they have somebody
they belong
they are
to
named
a
with.
certain
So
party.
the point I'm trying to make is that Nigeria is not a system that runs on efficiency, period. You know.
So, because even look at the way the system is set up, right? If you are a Muslim as the president, your vice president cannot be a Muslim.
Cannot be a Christian.
Cannot be a Muslim, actually. If you are the Senate president, cannot be a Yoruba man, and the deputy cannot be.
And that's,
So-
I kind of wanted to correct you on that, because when we talk about tribal affiliations and all that, I think we've actually gone away from that for a long time. Look, he's a Bini man, I'm a Bini man. We both speak Yoruba fluently. Fluently. I'm married to a Yoruba person.
I'm married to Yoruba too.
The intermarriages in Nigeria has actually changed the outlook when it comes to tribal affiliations. I mean, I don't think I have a friend, any close friend. Yeah, maybe more of my Yoruba friends are married to Yorubas because that's where the avenue we grew up in. I mean, I grew up Ibadan, Ife, Lagos, and all that. There was almost every chance that I was probably going to marry a Yoruba person. That's just because of where I grew up. It's the same thing. I have friends that did youth corps in the East. Yoruba boys that are married to Igbo
Igbos.
girls. So that has actually changed the outlook, or it should really help to change our outlook. So I'm one of those that I never stress anything about tribal or ethnic alliances, because I don't see it.
But you're speaking from the individual perspective. I'm talking about from
No,
the governmental
yeah.
aspect
Well, no,
of
you
these
know,
things.
and like he said it now, the government is different. The government puts things in place. Like he just said, even if you work here as in the government for America, the government has ways that it hires people. You know, it needs to fulfill certain quotas because that's what government does. It has to balance things out. Look, there are some federal ministries here in America that you go there and there are more blacks working in those places. It's almost like what you said, they created a quota for themselves. I'll tell you, as big as the Latino population is in America, you rarely see Latinos working for government, except in certain areas. Latinos prefer to own the smallest type of business possible. Doesn't matter. They're going to go into small business. But you're not going to see them work as a civil servant. It's not something they like to do.
Prof.
And so those are the things that we have to start to understand.
I want to
Mr.
quickly
Aishola.
add this. I disagree with you about tribe in Nigeria because I think it plays a big role. I don't see the intermarriages between the different tribes as being significant enough to have any impact on the bigger scale because the North or the Hausa is still the Hausa, the Igbo is still the Igbo, and you see a lot of political interest garnered around these Hausa, Igbo, or Yoruba, or Benin even.
Let me take Mr. Shola's opinion on this religion, ethnicity. Do they play a role?
Of course, they do play a role, but I don't.
Negatively, though, adverse.
I don't see an adverse role. Like I said, I tend, and he will tell you that, and this is one of those things that I do that I get chewed out for. I don't look at the dysfunctionality of the Nigerian society. I look at the functionality of its dysfunctionality. If you run Nigeria like a true Christian society, you'll have a great society.
True.
The same way, if you run Nigeria like a true Islamic nation, you will have a great nation. It is the dysfunctional introduction or the interpretation of religiosity in Nigeria that creates the problem that Nigeria has. It is the selfish interpretation of religious doctrine that creates the problem that if you follow the doctrine that says you will be judged by the least among you, then you have a great society. If you go by the doctrine that says that you are your brother's keeper, then you have a great society. A great society goes by rules and regulations. If you abandon the rules that create a great society and focus on the rules that creates class system, then you don't blame it on ethnicity or religion. You blame it on the misapplication of religion and ethnicity.
We will have to come back to this.
I
I have so many points I need to bring up, but before then, let's go into a quick commercial break. This is a sponsored show, so we need to pay back our sponsors. So we'll be right back.
Welcome to CFAX Global Logistics, where your ultimate satisfaction is our goal. We make your shipping needs a worthwhile experience. As a licensed freight forwarder, CFAX Global Logistics offers air and sea freight, procurement and supply chain, project logistics, warehousing and storage services. Call us at 281-820-9000 or 832-593-3067. We offer prompt, effective, qualitative services, and damage-proof delivery is our guarantee. What's more, we offer the lowest competitive rate for your shipment. You can call us at 281-820-9000 or 832-593-3067. So, to ship your next products and goods across continents on the next available flight or ship at a price that can't be beat, come to our office located at 8180 Southwest Freeway, Houston, Texas 77074 for your shipment and logistics services. CFAX Global Logistics, the trustworthy and reliable partner for your logistic need. Are you looking to buy a new or pre-owned vehicle, a sedan, truck, or SUV? Sterling McCall Toyota has got your back. With over 2,000 vehicles in stock, you can get a great deal of a lifetime. Lekon Alalikon. The sales consultant will make that happen. Good or bad credit? Call 832-807-3581. With over 5 years sales experience, Lekon Alalikon will help you navigate through the complexities of buying your dream car. full-service care, 2-year free oil change and tire rotation, plus 36,000 bumper-to-bumper coverage. Just call Lekon Olalikon of Sterling McCall Toyota on 832-807-3581. Better still, come on over to Sterling McCall Toyota, 9400 Southwest Freeway, Houston, Texas, 77074. Be sure to ask for Lekon Olalikon to get a special promo deal. 0% on Camry, RAV4, Highlander, and Tundra. Lekon Olalikon, 832-807-3581. Email at lagishin@sterlingmccalltoyota.com.
You're going to be arrested, right?
Sometimes, somewhere, somehow, someday, you'll need us. Westcott Law Group, let us fight for you.
Westcott Law Group is at 9525 Business Street, Suite 270, right in the Chase Bank Building, Houston, Texas 77036, 832-831-1412, or visit my case at westcottlawgroup.com.
Welcome back to My Community on Afrocentric Television, channel 15.8. This is the station, again, that brings about what's going on in our community here in the United States. Well, we'll call it the diaspora for you people in Africa. But anyway, initially, we were talking about Nigeria, you know, how it all started and what the problem has been and whatnot. And as sitting here in this, my generation, I'll tell you this much. These three gentlemen, they've opened my mind to so many other ways, you know, on issues in Nigeria, on how to view them differently. Anyway, coming back to join us again is Mr. Ishola, the presidential aspirant for UDP, forgive me.
I was on the ballot too, not aspirant too.
Oh, forgive me. And then the co-publisher of Christian Herald, Mr. Debo, and also our historian here, African history, Professor Omar Sagi. Welcome back once again.
Thanks for having me.
So we were talking about all these issues, and something kept coming. You know, we brought on the issue of religion and ethnicity as it plays a role in the development of Nigeria and whatnot. Now I want to talk about some things. I would leave oil aside. Nigeria is a very rich country in mineral resources, in natural resources in general. We have a wealth of, even our lands are fertile for agriculture. I remember we used to peel cocoa pods and you know, split it into two back in my days.
Yeah.
And you take the raw cocoa and then you can even make gum out of the inner part or whatever. The cassava leaves, we will, you know, after getting the cassava, the leaf, we can break it and put like a broomstick in one and make a necklace out of it. You know, life was good, was fun. You can be outdoor. Nobody's going to check what time it is. Your mom knows where you are. Your dad knows where. And when they're coming back home, they know, oh my God. You know, you know when you're, even from the 3rd Street, when you hear a honk, you know that's your dad's car. It's unique.
Well,
you know, but now, there's kidnapping everywhere. Nigeria, at some point in time, from the United States and any other country, saying it's not safe to be in Nigeria. If you have to be in Nigeria, consult your embassy, this and that. The security in Nigeria, it's not welcoming. It's not. Do you? I don't know how often you. I mean, you probably just came back. I haven't been to Nigeria in a little over a year, which is very, 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 very unusual. What do you think about the security in our home country today?
You look everywhere in the world where there are security challenges. I mean, and when we say security challenges now, maybe just the crime rate is up. You know, or even look at communities in America that have security challenges or crime rates are high. It's always mismanagement of a situation. Mismanagement of the city, Chicago. I once taught in Chicago, so I know. Chicago is probably one of the most mismanaged cities anywhere in the world. I mean, from having people on the payroll of the city that have been dead for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I'm just trying to tell you how mismanaged,
Nigeria
how mismanaged that city has been for years, for years. So when you see the security issues that surround what is happening, all the killings every weekend and all that, you start wondering, how is that happening in America that can't be solved? It's because it's been a problem for years that the people that are in control, the people that should be able to solve, have refused to solve the problem because it has gone beyond them. And that is always part of the problem in Nigeria. I want to take you back quickly to what I'll tell you that was something I noticed as a student in Ife. University of Ife was probably the best created environment for a college, especially when you come to America and look at what Ife was trying to do in its early days. It had its own farm.
Yes.
It had its own bakery. It had its own water system. But here became the problem. The bakery, the farm, at that time, served a very small population. You can't do business without numbers. The population of people who could buy the beef from the farm, from the university, was very small. Nobody at that time had the guts to say, we could get this meat to Lagos within 2 hours from Ife every day.
To monetize it.
To start to monetize on a larger scale. Get a couple of refrigerated trucks. Nobody ever thought about that. All they did was that they were now just comfortable selling to the professors.
Local community.
Now, before that, they were selling a lot of the meat to the cafeteria. But like I said, within a semester or so of me entering Ife in 78, that was cancelled. So the meat now was only being sold to the lecturers. How many lecturers? I remember all the professor friends that their children were, 3 mothers we gang together to buy 1 cow, and to last them 2 months, 3 months, or something like that. So eventually died. That business aspect of the university that we were trying to create died because nobody had the foresight to know that you need the numbers to stay alive.
So how does that relate to the security challenges?
When you don't have things that people are doing, when it became very tough in Ife, Ife became almost the house of gangs at one time. Ife, University of Ife became the home of campus gangs. I mean, like I always tell people, it's true that Wole Soyinka was the person that started the Pirates Confraternity and all that. But it wasn't ever meant as a gang in the sense of, what it became. But the University of Ife became the home. I mean, do you know the number of killings that happened in that, on that
while
campus?
I was there, I remember Africa when
look,
that was my time.
When you don't have things that people are doing, the frustration of a system start to get to the people. Like I say again, look at all the cities in America that have a crime problem. It's because there's very little going on in those cities. And the more you have crime, the very likelihood that businesses are not going to come there.
Oh yeah,
so
because
your
your
problem
their
just
security
worsens.
and safety anyway.
Yeah, your problem.
What's your
worsens.
thought on this?
I just think our over-reliance on government is part of our problem, because even the government of the United States is not efficient enough to handle. They'll take care of health, take care of transportation, and that is part of the greed and corruption that makes the entire police in Nigeria is one boss, Inspector General. See, that system can be efficient, like he said.
I thought they're breaking that down now to state by state.
They've been talking about breaking it for so what you see, I think there's a saying that an idle mind is
it's a devil's workshop.
Yes.
It's a criminal.
So when people are not occupied, and Nigeria has a very young population,
extremely
and many
young.
of them Nigeria is the only place I know where you will finish university 5 years, 7 years, you are still looking for a job. And meanwhile, you have some classmates who were even better than, who have a hookup, and they are living large. After a while, we all will tend to, look at the other side of crime.
Let's talk about the infrastructure. Don't let me say I didn't ask you about the security issue, because I know it's one of the main challenges in Nigeria.
It's not a challenge in the sense that when there's corruption at the highest level of government, where there's unemployment and where there is poverty and hunger, the solution is crime. Period. Like I said, I am crazy. I see Nigeria for what it is. What I have never seen Nigeria for is what I'm seeing it for the past 2 years. How everything in Nigeria now makes sense to me. The crime makes sense. The buying of votes and selling of votes makes sense. The kidnappings make sense. Are they right? No, they are wrong. But when you look at it from the standpoint of somebody that says we need a more egalitarian, more cohesive society that works for everybody, and the moment we don't have that, then there's no law and order. Once equality breaks down, then law and order breaks down. Somebody jokes around and says, in America, when you see a policeman, they're probably arresting somebody, taking the person to jail. In Nigeria, when you see a policeman, they're keeping somebody out of jail. Some criminal out of jail. Because they're the one protecting the people that should be in jail. So you can't get near them. Because this a whole experience for me. Let me just break it down for you into 3 places. The existential problem of Nigeria is the media. Number 1. The biggest problem in Nigeria is the media.
Ashimbaji just addressed that a few days ago.
Ashimbaji can just go wherever he wants to go. The guy says one thing in America, he goes back to Nigeria and says completely different things. The military is a big problem because they don't have a problem taking up their guns and killing their fellow citizens. And then the political parties. They lie about their size, their strength, their capability, their reach, and everything. They make our democracy look like a joke. So when the media will keep you out of the rest of the world, Nigerians don't see what is going on outside. Nigerians don't know what is going on in Cameroon. They can't afford the data to be on YouTube. Your program will benefit Nigeria, but I can guarantee you that 30 people in Nigeria cannot watch it unless they are at work or they are millionaires.
Where they are getting free data.
Free data and free Wi-Fi. What kind of a society is that? It's a closed society where they don't see what is going on anywhere else. When a media of about 500 TV stations and almost 1,000 newspapers will actually keep quiet when a candidate that did not step up to debate and share his ideas for the people wins an election, that
That's
media
deep.
is a problem.
That's deep.
That is the problem of Nigeria.
So, I will like for us to sit one more time to talk about this Nigerian issue when it comes to the leadership and political view. However, this day and age, even people here that are not on their feet, when I say on their feet, maybe they don't have papers or whatever, they advise people back home in Nigeria, if you have the opportunity, get out.
Yeah.
There is what we call the brain drain out of Nigeria. Andrew, a while back, said, Andrew, don't check out those. Say, why? Because don't leave Nigeria, go survive. But now, nobody wants to keep Nigeria or the hope alive anymore. Everybody's trying to get out to a greener pasture, they call it, right? Like the Canada organized, some visa lottery system. America also, the H1B2 or something like that, the visa system where, you have the best of the best come to your country, where you keep them here, you give them your education, you give them good jobs. They don't have any reason to go back where everybody over there in Nigeria is complaining anyway, right? But then, upon getting to all these other countries, we commit what we call fraud. It could be a minute percentage of the Nigerians overseas, in the UK, here in the United States, in Canada, in Asia. It's their rule. If they catch you, they will kill you. If they don't, So I don't expect me to be merciful on these guys, or to have a pity party for them. No. But what I'm saying is, they drain the best of the best over there to come here because we cannot utilize their brain where they are in Nigeria. So the education system is collapsed or collapsing, if you ask me. Now, on getting to the other end, you believe you are in the greener pasture, there are attacks going on now. They are not just into frauds, but the fraud could lead them to snatching, spending frivolously on whatnots because it's not hard-earned currency. They worked hard for it because they have to do something. Prof, I'm getting somewhere. So now they're here, or in the UK, Canada, anywhere they are, anywhere else outside of Nigeria they are, even in Ghana. Now people are saying they trying to kick us back to where we are. Recently, I read on Twitter where some African Americans are talking about Nigerian in HSDC or something like that, that they are, if you go there, 90-something percentage of the professors out there are Nigerians. And to our faces, the Nigerians are coming here to take up our jobs, to take up this. Is that a belief for what it is, or are we actual threats to other African nations or black race in other countries?
Look, let's use numbers again. One out of every five black person is a Nigerian. Now, I don't know whether you are trying to refer to HISD.
No,
Not the HISD.
Historically
black, something like that.
Look, I taught I taught in one of them. I taught in Chicago State for 3-4 years. Yeah, I mean, when I was in Chicago State, I would say maybe, I'll just give a number, maybe there were 100 lecturers there. I'm just using a number. I mean, I would say 45 to 50% were Nigerians.
Not just Africans, Nigerians.
Well, maybe I'll throw, I mean, there were a couple of Africans, one from Liberia, one from Sierra Leone, but generally about 50%, 40 to 50% were Nigerians. Now, Chicago's a big city for Nigerians, so you would expect that. Well, I think it's one of the professions we also like, academics, so there's nothing wrong with that. Now, if people are upset about it, here's what I always say. I mean, I have friends that are in the media, I mean, African-American friends. They'll say there are not enough black sports writers. I'll say, well, show me one that wants to be in New York Times that wasn't hired. Most African Americans.
I even referred to something like that yesterday. We were at the conference, and we were like, NRG Stadium, for God's sake. You know how big it is? We weren't more than, like, other than the people that came from NMPC that were there. Myself and two of my other partners were the only other Nigerians that were there. And I'm like, okay, the rest of them, maybe about 3 others, African Americans. The rest of them are probably just working, serving tea and coffee over there, not there for the conference itself. So I understand what he's saying.
Yeah, we have to understand one thing. People will gravitate to what they want to do. You can't force people into a profession and all that. And so I think that for Nigerians generally, most of the things we've taken up here in America, especially America, is what we want to do. The nursing profession is big for Nigerians.
Could it be something the other African or other black community does not want to take up on?
Look, hey.
Because what I'm saying is we are becoming a threat to this guy.
I don't think
they are saying it though.
I don't.
That was why we had xenophobia in Cameroon. In South Africa.
I don't think.
Yeah,
I don't think. I will not agree. You know, there's in any system you will see some people use that word threat. You know, I really don't buy into it because
I wouldn't use that word.
A lot of times it's people who have not taken advantage of the opportunities. I was telling somebody that when we came to this country, you know, and we were paying international student fees, you became smart suddenly, not because
because you're paying a lump sum.
But you know, you see, you can't. The African American who's probably paying maybe
In
$50
states, in state.
Yeah.
and you are paying $500. You have to work hard. So and I don't know, maybe
They're collecting money, but they don't know
yes,
they're preparing
maybe
us
I'm
for it.
just misguided in my opinion, but I just think that the Nigerian person or people are gifted and can work hard in any system and do well.
No,
in
look,
any system.
just before Mr.
Yeah.
Eshola jumps in, because I know you want to jump in.
Oh, I'm waiting for him to say something also.
I mean, and you're right about the night. But I'm not going to say gifted. The thing is that we take advantage of the situations we find. You know, the system is good to a lot of us. And we've taken advantage of that.
And just before he said something, right? Isn't that the same thing the American government is doing right now? The current administration is doing when he says we want to shut down our borders and whatnot. I know we're talking about legality and illegality of immigration and whatever. But then they are saying they come over here to take up our jobs. They're doing this but none of them don't want to take up the odd jobs, which the Hispanics will pick up. They don't want to take it up. But, you know, like even a white guy that was interviewed on CNN said he has a farm and they have to milk cows. He trying to hire white folks. Like he interviewed a whole lot of them. When they get to the field of play, they are like, so I have to do this. Some quit right there and then. Some will work one day and will never return.
Just before, again, I was in Nigeria for 3.5, 4 years, running a consultancy. I got a job at one time that I needed to hire people to do research. I was introduced to 2-3 young men. 2 of them had never held a job in the 3-4 years they had left the University of Ibadan. Okay, I said I'll hire them. I was going to give them a laptop, provide them with data and all that. But I was going to pay them by the hour.
Oh.
I was going to pay them
As opposed to a salary.
Yeah, that's 8,000 a day.
8,000 per hour and you work 8 hours a day.
That would be 40,000 a week.
That's a lot of money.
160,000 a month.
That's a lot of money.
And it could go to 200,000 if we go out of town to Ado Ekiti and, to do some of the work we needed to do.
For the research sake.
I hope you know that they all refused to take the job because they didn't want to be paid by the hour. And they had never held a job before. But they refused to work under the conditions that I was given.
Because they want to lazy around when they want to.
Hey, and I explained it very simply. I'm not going to hire you, pay you 160 at the end of the month, and you don't come to work at 10 o'clock because you say your mom was sick. If your mom is sick, you're supposed to come in at 8 o'clock, I'm going to take the first 2 hours off. They were not used to that, and they were not willing to abide by that. And they refused
exposed to that either, though.
And they refused to take the job. And they decided that 160, which you said was a pretty good salary.
Oh, that's
any level.
way decent. What are you talking about? I've hired so many in Nigeria.
I
have employees in Nigeria.
40,000 and still insist that they come to work on time and they will hate you forever.
But you know what? They pay them 70,000 a month and they abuse them. You leave home at 5 in the morning, your children are not even up. By the time you get back home because of traffic or whatnot, they are asleep. You don't get to see them. The only time you get to see them is on Saturday morning, which you want to go to club or you want to hang out with the boys or you want to watch football or whatnot. So at the end of the day, you rely on the house help to take care of your children.
Well, I'm just trying to give you an example of what goes on.
I want to hear
from
Mr. Eshola also on the, fact that we come to other nations and I said we become a threat to them, but they disagree with me, or rather they would rather not use the word threat. It's because the other race, with the same race, but other the indigenes of those countries feel like there are things they reject or they don't want to do that we take up on, and then we become the best at it, and now they hating us for that. Is that your view on this also?
No, that's not my view. That's not my view at all. I don't see us taking on those jobs. I see us exploiting those jobs and making more out of it than that job is supposed to do. If you want to talk about...
than it's supposed to do.
Yes. If you want to talk about the xenophobia, of the self-xenophobic inducement that we do to ourselves. When I was one of the, maybe I was the first of my contemporaries in America to have a mortgage, back in 79, 80. When I was sitting down with the mortgage broker or whatever, and we're doing it. And she insisted that I cannot spend more than 33% of
My salary
salary
or your income.
on my house. And I'm like, are you the one living in it or me? You say the house is this much. I say I can afford it. But she's looking at it like, no, that is 70% of your income. I'm not going to give you that house because
You might not be able
you'll be
to afford
foreclosed
to-
on in the
very-
next 3 or 4 years. Now, I listened then. Because freshly out of Nigeria, you're in America, you think you know it all, but at the same time, you want to feel like an American. You're not going to tell those kids today that. These kids make $50,000 a year. They pay $47,000 in mortgage. They drive a Range Rover. The girlfriend drives a Lexus. They got to make up the difference. So we make more money with our mouths than our bank account reflects. And I don't know which camera you have on me, but if the American people, if you've never listened to any Nigerian speak one time, please listen to me right now. The millionaire Nigerians that you know, I can probably tell you they make less than 10% of $1 million. Because if they make $1 million, you will not know them. They won't show up in your neighborhood.
You'll be working.
The wealthy Nigerians don't hang out. The Nigerians with no money hang out and tell you how much money they have. And that is the way we are being seen. And that is what is creating our problems for us. We present, look, he knows him, I won't mention his name. We officed in the same building before. He's a congressman in this town. He's been a congressman for a long time. One of his our friend. At a luncheon one day, he looked at me and he said, you know, it's hard for me to think of you as a Nigerian. I said, why? He said, doctor. But you're never going to hear him say doctor. I call him doctor. But he doesn't go around calling himself a doctor.
I asked him. He refused to tell me. Just
like I refused to tell you anything
Yeah,
either. Just like I
FGRN,
didn't hear you say
CVN,
that.
CIP,
Okay?
PMP, all these titles.
He said to me, he said, you're not a prince, you're not a king, you're not an engineer.
You don't
you're
have
not
an oil well.
architecture, You don't use any of those, you just Aisha Labalogun. He said, how come? I'm used to Nigerians being kings.
Engineer.
A lot of kings without kingdoms. I swear. A congressman. He told me that. You cannot take any Nigerian issue to him. He will tell you not. He will send you to the lowest person in his office to talk to, because he sees us as colossally underachieving people. But like I said, the last 2 years have shown me about Nigeria in a way that I wish I can open everybody's eyes. And I'm trying to do that now. Open everybody's eyes and say, look, these are the realities of the country we come from. Do you know Nigeria is the #1 producer of soybean in the world? Do you know that?
I read about that.
Do you know that Nigeria is the #1 producers of pineapple in the world?
I don't know that.
Do you know that Nigeria has got the tomato belt of the world because we produce the most tomatoes in the world?
Yes.
Do you know that Kogi especially is the leading state and the #1 cashew producer?
I'm aware of that.
And then plantain.
I don't know about
And
that.
then not to talk about cassava, which could be turned
Cassava,
into
tiger
100
nuts.
different things. Okay? So you have the food basket of the world in a place called Nigeria, where 87% of his people, 87 million of his people tonight will go to bed hungry.
Is it because they are lazy?
No, it's because the government does not want you to afford food, because they won't be able to come to you every 4 years and give you 4,000.
But we had
naira.
said something earlier. Why is all this, or why are all this reliance on the government?
It's not the reliance on the government, it's the fear of confronting the government. You see, there are two different
But we are
things.
social media activists. Though.
No,
Who?
all those.
We Nigerians are social media activists.
We don't go
We
on
just
social
talk.
media.
We just-
We are WhatsApp
we just-
activists.
We are just.
We can't afford
It's
to
a
go on.
WhatsApp
We can't go on
activist.
Facebook, it's data. We can't go on Twitter, it's data. We cannot go on, what's it called, YouTube. Look, we go on WhatsApp, we go on Naira Land. That's it.
No,
all
on
we
Twitter
do is
now.
fight.
On Twitter now, I think on Instagram there's a whole lot going on IGTV. from Nigeria. On Twitter also, there's a huge. Facebook, same thing. It's all on the palms, right? It's now on their phone, so it's easier
And it's free?
for them. It's not. They buy data for it. So now they're offering data at certain at certain time. But let me bring us back to where the attacks going on on against Nigerians
in South Africa.
In South Africa, not just South Africa, like I pointed out earlier. There's one here in the United States. I remember going to Cummins, Georgia. I think it was May this year. And I walked into a Walmart station, a supercenter, to buy some stuff for the naming ceremony we went for. And this African American guy approached me, my friend, and he was like, "You guys Africans?" I'm like, "Yeah, we Africans, but I'm precisely Nigerians." Because I like to let you understand that Africa is not just one country, right? It's a continent. I'm Nigerian precisely, and him too. I'm like, yeah. And the first thing, do y'all hate us as much as we hate y'all? What you talking about?
What are you talking about?
You hate me? I don't mean it in that way. I'm saying when I say we, I mean we Black Americans. We really don't. Because y'all come to our country, and if we go to a club, you pop champagne, and what we can afford is just buy a shot and things like that. So I'm like, no, that's a misconception, right? We work hard, first off. If we want to play, I don't go out as much as I used to. When I was younger, I do go out. Yeah, you can talk about me back then that way. But now, if I go out, I'm not going to be lounging around the bar side trying to get a shot. I want a table where my friends and I will sit down because we came out to unwind, where we can sit down and have a drink on our table. So I don't have to keep going back and forth to the bar, right? And that is all you see. And you see me drive the car, that Mercedes, that Lexus, that Range Rover, for 5 minutes, right? Because that's all you saw. I don't get to drive it every time for 5 minutes, only in the day.
But just like Mr. Shola just said, it's just that's the people that are really trying to be loud. There's really no substance to it. Like you just said, I mean, if you go out, you probably want to spend a quiet night with your friends, just have some fun. You are not bloviating all over the whole place, standing up and throwing, breaking a bottle of champagne or something so that people can see you. I mean, it's, are there people that do that? Yes, but we're not the only people that do that.
No.
Other people do that. If African Americans take offense to that and want to ascribe that to Nigerians, that's wrong. Because, look, we're very functional in a lot of other places, And like I said, I mean, there's so many things that we don't dominate it, but we are very, very prevalent in it. Medicine. Medicine is an example.
Yeah,
you go to a lot of places today. There are a lot of Nigerians that are medical doctors. It's something that
even nurses.
Well, no, I mean, I'm not trying to go much higher. Higher. You find out that it's because that's what a lot of parents. If you live long here in America, and your kid has any, this thing, you probably say, look, maybe medicine should be. Is it tough to get into medical school? Yes, it is. But they do get in there. It's a cultural thing for us. We're not the only ones that do that. Which is
Asians.
Indians in particular.
Yeah.
Indians are the other group that are very high on that. But here's what I always tell people. One of the reasons that people might see us as being one kind is all that is because we also misuse numbers. You always hear Nigerians the most educated subgroup in America. True and false. What do I mean by that?
Yeah, I was going to say WSJ reported it that way too.
It's true that, the typical Nigerian family probably has someone with a master's in the house. That's true. But what is the master's in? I'm in education. There are other subgroups like Indians or Asians generally that their master's or even their first degree is worth more than what I have in the social sciences. Yeah. So we have to understand that. But the numbers just say that, look, really, and that's true. We do go to school a lot. And that's true.
So I want to talk about this xenophobia thing. Let's leave USA now. Let's do Africa on Africa, South Africa. What is your take on this recent attack?
My take is It's negrophobia. This is black man's crime on black. This is only possible among blacks against each other. The same thing that the people of South Africa are complaining about is being complained about in Malaysia, about Nigerians. In Guangdong, in China, somewhere in China, they're having the same problem. Just like in America here, they have the same problem with the American men. The women think Nigerian men are the best things since sliced bread, okay? And even the most xenophobic group of people you ever find, the Asian women, they gravitate towards Nigerian men in China and Japan now, like in hundreds, if not thousands, because of the largesse of the Nigerian man and the way he presents himself, okay? So what you have is the black man having no respect for himself. We did the same thing to Ghanaians.
True.
I remember
We
Ghana
kicked
must
them
go.
out. We warned them. And then when they said they won't go, we said, we'll start killing you. They were smart. They carried their bag and they left. Nigerians refuse to leave because we have this belief that everywhere belongs to us. We have a sense of belonging. You see, they always say that there are some things that they say. When you're in Rome, you act like a Roman, except when you're in Nigeria. When a Nigerian is in Rome, he tells you, you know what, you need to
Change to Nigeria.
to Nigeria. This is the way we do it. There are only two cultures in the world like that. One has the right to be, the other one doesn't.
Americans, yep.
And Nigeria. Do it my way because my way is better.
Okay.
And like you said,
that's the
yeah, I
problem
mean,
we have.
and here's the analogy I use for that, for the Americans. Americans are the only people that can play a sport where they don't even kick the ball.
The ball, and call
and
it
call it football.
And the whole world has to
and
accept
then
it.
tell the rest of the world to call it soccer.
And you have to.
That this is football. And what you guys are playing there is
It's
soccer.
soccer.
Yeah.
Americans are the only other people that do that.
I won't get deep into that right now, but just you have to stay tuned. This is getting interesting. We have one more session to go, and then we will be right back.
On behalf of B2C, the founder, the board of trustees, the workers, we say a very big thank you for all these big gifts. We are very grateful and we appreciate from the bottom of our heart. Thank you.
Richard joined this orphanage when he was a little baby, and the orphanage has taken him from being a baby all the way to being in the university now, and that is what we want to support. So we are pleading the next year's drive, we want it to be 3-4 times this. There's a lot of work to be done. Join us in supporting the less privileged.
Thank you, Pastor Kisley Okeleke. God will continue to bless you. Amen.
Amen.
I'm here to say thank you to you, Pastor Abu Olaye. God will bless you for the gift you gave to us. Thank you.
I'm here to say thank you for the gift that you are giving us. And next time that you are coming, that you guys are coming, you come with more years to come and celebrate here in Jesus' name. Thank you.
It's an Adelso for giving us a privilege to have smiles on our face, and I pray may you not have cause to cry. Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Bele, exactly for this. May God bless you.
So this is a check of 100,000 from all of us at Ship to Nigeria. We know it's a little. We are praying that God willing, next year will be a lot bigger. And again, all this has been made possible by Nigerians in Houston. We thank you so much for everything. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are really grateful for all these donations and for this check. Nothing is too little as long as Little Saints is concerned. We are really grateful. Thank you. God bless you all. In Jesus' name.
Once again, thank you, Houstonians. You did great. You donated so many items. And on behalf of all of us here, we know God will continue to bless you as you have remembered the helpless in Nigeria. This year, we are going to do it even bigger. From now till the 31st of December, please drop off anything you have in our Bisonet office, and we'll send it to more orphanages. So again, from now till 31st of December, feel free, drop whatever you have, and we'll ship it absolutely free to various orphanage homes in Nigeria. Thank you.
Afrocentric, this is the way to go. Afrocentric is the place to be.
Afrocentric is the place to be.
Hey, Afrocentric, right, is the place to be.
Afrocentric 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 is the place to be. Dondolo, I'm telling you.
My name is Kevin Folikosi from Ivory Coast, and Afrocentric is the place to be.
I am Afrocentric.
Yo, I am Afrocentric. I am Afrocentric. Yes, I am.
Is the place to be.
I am Afrocentric.
I am Afrocentric.
I am Afrocentric. I am the queen of sleeves and I'm Afrocentric.
I am Afrocentric.
I am Linda Nukwo and I am Afrocentric.
My name is Mazda Dinon and I'm Afrocentric. And I'm even more Afrocentric. Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you so much for everything you have done to us. Thank you so much.
Hey, and welcome back to My Community on Afrocentric Television Channel 15.8. We're back at it, right? It is still Nigeria's 59th birthday, I would say. It is not the birthday by independence, because if you say birthday and Lord Lugard came and named Nigeria, does that mean that our forefathers that has been living in Nigeria does not exist, or Nigeria never came into existence then? To me, that's a personal, question that I ask myself sometimes when they say they named us Nigeria and they founded Nigeria, in 1960. Anyway, we gained independence, and we are here to talk some more about, the occurrences and how effective we have been in the globe, let's say, in the world, And again, we have our gentleman here. I am so learning this season. I am so learning. It feels like I'm growing more and more, and I'm having a better understanding. And I think you would too if you keep an open mind, like I did. You will learn. You have your opinion, but if you let it sink and let it resonate around the ones they have, and then you can make corrective changes and measures to make things happen, because we are the future of this generation and the next to come. So joining us again is Mr. Edebo. I'll lend you Dr. Edebo, Professor Osage, and Mr. Ishola with us. Welcome back, gentlemen.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So it's been a good talk so far. I'm enjoying, like I said, learning. But I want to talk about one aspect of our country, or rather two, majorly the infrastructure of that nation, right, or in that nation, Nigeria. The roads, the hospitals, education system, like the classrooms and all that. Prof, the way you are acting is like you have something on, what is your take? Where is this taking us? Where are we with that today? I will just go ahead and start with you. Because it looks like you have so much to say about this.
Yeah, you mentioned the roads, but I think to me the most important infrastructure that we lack is power.
Yeah.
And it's kind of unfortunate because power was probably one of the simplest things that we could have continued to build on. Because I grew up with power being constant. I grew up with when power is going to have some problems, it is announced ahead of time. You're given warning, and it will be 3 days, it will be 3 hours on a Saturday or something. So then what happened? Again, we just did not have the foresight to continue to build and strengthen our power grids, the generation and the distribution. Obviously, when you generate, you have to distribute. We did none of that. We just stayed at one spot. The population grew bigger and things. It's the same thing with the roads. Is it really that we don't want to build roads? We want to. A typical example is that the only reason I actually eventually attended University of Ife, Obafemi Awolowo University, was the completion of the Lagos-Ibadan Express Road. Remember I said I went to school in Ibadan, Loyola College.
Oh, yeah.
And my parents had that problem of, at that time we had the famous Greyhound accident. I don't know whether anybody remembers that, and a lot of people died. I mean, those things always bothered my mom in particular. So going on that road, so I was one of those people that once we went to school at the beginning of the semester, there was no midterm, nothing. You don't come home to Lagos until the end of the semester. So I went through that all through secondary school. But just at the end of my secondary school days, they finished the express road. So that was what gave me. Now, how does a country build the road that became the busiest road in the whole of Africa? You keep that road at the same size, basically, for 20 to 30 years. That road was initially built as an express, a tolled road. You allowed all the satellite towns and businesses that come from churches to towns and, you know, all types of things now out of that road. It's almost impossible for it to become what it was meant to be. And that is an express road. Because what are you going to do with those towns? They have to come out into that road. Are you now going to have street lights on that road? That is why the construction or the reconstruction of that road has taken forever now. Because it's almost, by the time you get to one part done, you say, what next? It's always going to be congested because we have misused the time that we could have built. It's the same thing we did with power. It's the same thing we've done with water. Nobody knows whether there's any water corporation in anywhere in Nigeria.
Is there any? You dig your borehole or you have your own little well.
Collecting money, I'm almost sure.
And some people with boreholes sell water
So when
to
you
the
talk
community.
about infrastructure, that is where you start. Power, water, road. If those things are non-functional, there's nothing you can do. I talked about Ife trying to create a bakery business or a farming business and bring their goods to the biggest market in Nigeria, which would be Lagos. They can't do that anymore because it might take them, the meat could go bad even in the refrigerated truck because if they get stuck
in traffic.
So now you have a problem. Nothing is going to go well until those three things, those three things, power, water, and road, which should belong to the government, are duly and properly fixed.
What do you think? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I agree that we need infrastructure. What I don't agree is who is supposed to provide infrastructure. That is my biggest problem. With, like I said, dysfunctionality, yes, check. Functionality is where my question is. Number one, we sell generators now. We went from ECN to NEPA to PCH, and now we are in generator.
I better pass my neighbor.
And we went from Drew Water Works to borehole now, pure water. So we are going backwards. Like I said, you look in the rearview mirror to see
what's behind you.
But my question is this. You power electricity with liquefied natural gas. We have over 300 trillion deposit in Nigeria. Or coal. We have over 200 trillion tons buried in the Udi hills of Enugu and Anambra. Or you can do hydro. And we have two of the largest rivers in Africa, in Nigeria.
So is Kanji Dam still functioning, by the way?
It doesn't even matter. The River Niger is still there, River Benue is still there. Nigeria is flooding every day. Every state in Nigeria floods every year from August to December. Nobody is trapping that water, no retention ponds, no artificial lakes to capture those water, to use them for irrigation, to use them for generation of electricity sometime in the future. But my problem is not that. My problem is, Obafemi Awolowo University talked about the farm and everything that they had. If they couldn't project, that is the citadel of education, and they even couldn't project there's going to be a population shift, a population change, that's going to be, if they couldn't do it at the highest level of our academia, then why am I bothering these people here at this lower level here that are in the ministries? So now my question is this. Since 1974, when we started the National Youth Service Corps, how many electrical engineers have we trained in Nigeria. Can one of them not design a Nigerian-centric turbine? Do we actually have to buy turbine to generate electricity from outside Nigeria after 74 years of turning out some of the most educated engineers in Nigeria? Do we really think that is the fault of the government? Do you think that if you manufacture or create a turbine in your lab today, that some private company is not going to mass produce it for you and sell it to states to generate electricity? There is this thing that is killing us, which is the entitlement to federal government money from crude oil.
Thank you very much. I totally agree with you.
Get rid of our interest in crude oil, sell palm oil, sell groundnut oil, sell peanuts. That money goes into your bank, you will be rich. But we feel like, why should I create a turbine? Why can't somebody create a drone to look for the Fulani herdsmen at this point?
They don't even have to create it. They can buy one on Amazon, for God's sake.
Oh, no. You don't want that because they bought one for $150 the other day and spent 15 million naira to inaugurate it.
You're bringing shame to me.
No, it's not shame. It's not shame. It's reality.
Why would we buy something for $150 and spend 15 million for inauguration?
I think what I was going to say is that we need to shift the emphasis away from government if we really need Nigeria to move forward. Because a lot of these things, if we have a business approach to it, like the meat thing you talked about, that's a business approach, you know? But I think the bane of Nigeria is just this over-reliance on government. Government that is corrupt and inefficient. So you'll find out that the man who really has to make this decision is more interested in his own pocket than the welfare of the country. That's where our problem lies.
It's funny.
For a chance to be in government
it's funny when he now said something about the meat that you've been talking about earlier. A friend of mine has this project. He actually went for training outside of Nigeria and he came back and he started his own farm. He can do what do they call the artificial insemination, where you can buy semen from like cows in Sweden that produces about 10 gallons, where as opposed to our local cows that can only produce 1 gallon of milk a day.
What milk? Pig milk?
No,
Nigerian cows don't produce milk.
Yeah, that's what he said. So he can insert this semen in them to the female ones, and then they start they breed the new ones, and the new ones start. Then the breeds start changing, over time, and then we can start production of milk. And the ones that are not functioning, they can be taken to the slaughterhouse at the abattoir,
sometimes you have to kill them anyway,
and then produce meat.
But all you get is you don't have beef.
No, but these ones after the artificial insemination, the offspring or whatever they call them, the calves, they become more productive and stuff like that. And he pitched this. He was immediately, and I'm like, his name is Afolabi. I can mention his name because I told him if I have enough capital that I'm ready to expand on agriculture, I will go that route because they import milk into the country, whereby there is a Nigerian. No, he's not just one. He said he's 1 out of 6, according to him.
The Zimbabweans doing the same thing. The thing is there's a cultural divide there, though. Nigerians expect to see their cows on the road, moving from one.
They expect to see their cow
on the road,
that is part
moving
of the
from one
problem
place to the other.
Why?
Bringing it from
Isn't that what
Sokoto to
Ruga
Benin?
or the ranch houses?
Because this is what I'm saying, the dysfunctionality
of the system.
Functionality of the dysfunctionality of the system. When you say somebody is fat as a cow in America,
that means the cow is welfare.
That means that the cow is sitting in one place, just eating and getting fat. You are not talking about Nigerian cow.
No.
When
you move from
if
Sokoto
somebody
to
is
Benin City,
somebody is fat like a Nigerian cow, that person is healthy. That person is nice, like Professor, yes, trim, skinny, lean, and everything. The Nigerian cow is it's a deer, it's not a cow.
Interesting.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Because they move them thousands of miles.
But is that how we should still be getting big
No.
after 50
It is not.
years.
It is not.
to
That's why
fo-
some
to-
of us
to
are still.
feed a population.
That's
that
why
is
some of us are still
probably
trying to
twice the
invest
number.
in other
It just
other
makes no
sectors
sense.
of Nigeria.
I just want
Makes no
to.
sense.
I want to add something because we're talking about what role does government have, or how much role should government play in the
Right.
development of the
Okay.
country. Very early, as a young man, I did go into business. I actually was one of the first, if not the first, privately owned garbage collection company in Lagos called Hygienics. With 3 of my colleagues, we were doing our youth call when we started our garbage collection company. We were picking up the garbage ourselves on our off days, on our weekends. We had workers and all that. And I ran that business for about 8 years. On selling the business, before I sold the business, because now remember, at that time, from 83 when we started, we were in direct competition with government, with the Lagos State government. I wrote a paper for the Waste Management Board then, that the only way to keep Lagos clean was to directly tax or directly collect money from every household in Lagos and then divide the collection of garbage amongst private companies. And then you pay the private companies on the tonnage or in the areas, how many houses. That plan didn't come into existence for another 8 to 10 years after we left the business. What I'm trying to say here is that government is slow at reacting or taking actions. I mean, that is why we all say, especially if you've lived long in America, if you want to get anything done, you go private. You go private. That is what the problem in Nigeria is. With such a bloated system, and then the people in government, because they see themselves with some superiority over every other person, because government is all we know. Taking advice from private situations like your friend's situation, they don't like it. This thing might go into existence in the next 10 years. It might become something government will now really encourage people to do. But it takes time dealing with the Nigerian government. I dealt with the Nigerian government. I knew that. Look, my business was pretty successful in its very early years, but because we're in direct competition with government, it was not on the verge of collapse, but it couldn't grow. We had the biggest contracts, and I collected the garbage of the entire Lagos, the entire British embassy. They had about 150 units of housing between Victoria Land and Ikoyi. Cadbury had about 50 in GRA in Ikeja, and I was their garbage collector.
Shouldn't there be like an arm of the government that would encourage or that will encourage youth empowerment?
They
Something
did.
like that.
We were given a tax break for 10 years.
No, you say youth empowerment.
That would empower the youth.
That is business
Industrialization.
empowerment.
Yes.
Well, okay, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, okay.
You see, the more you guys give ideas to this government, the more you push back your progress. I just wrote something this very morning.
But who are the investors that would invest in these young guys in Nigeria? I'm investing rather currently
What business are you
in
investing
some AI, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, it's
You're
data
producing it
analytics.
at a markup of over 100% because you still don't have the energy to produce it that is not artificial. Diesel and everything to power your office and everything makes your production already negative before you even start. You are overpriced already. Listen, I traveled across Nigeria when I was naive. I didn't know about Fulani herdsmen then. I traveled on the road for almost 35 states. I didn't go to Yobe, and I barely went to Borno, like on the outskirts, But I saw over 3,000 universities, but I barely saw 300 factories.
Even churches and mosques.
Where do you go to work if you get out of university? But where we are is with the garbage collection right now. Indians will come in and pay for that garbage because they use it to generate electricity.
Right. Even in the UK.
Okay. So we have things
Maryland
that we can
right there do it.
We have things that we can do as a society. The government, look at what government is doing now. Empower. Do you know what empower is?
I know what empower
Does that not insult your intelligence though? After primary, secondary, university, youth service corps, then Empower teaches you how to be a barber or to be a plumber for 30,000 naira a month. What kind of insult is that? See, you have to be careful the suggestions we make from abroad to the Nigerian government because their misinterpretation creates even more chaos.
But even the older generation does not even believe in us.
You know, they create chaos.
Let me
And
deviate
that's where
from this a
personal
little.
interest comes
Comes
in.
in.
Let me deviate from this a little. Our healthcare sector. People now believe that they can't. There's no healthcare infrastructure in Nigeria that's can take care of their need. So they tend to leave the country to go to their neighboring even countries like Ghana, South Africa, going to the UK, coming to the United States. Other than the fact that they want to have the United States citizenship for their children, they still want some with good money, don't trust the healthcare sector to handle the birth of their child. So they'll rather come to a system that works and give birth to their child. And after the childbirth and everything, they collect the right documents and they fly back to their country. The child may not even come to the United States but it's already a U.S. citizen, right? So what is wrong with our healthcare sector?
Government? I tend to blame the majority of our problems with put it on government, because even the United States of America, there are very few things that the government owns. Hospital, a bus service. You see, and I attribute that to corruption again, because they want to lay their hands, control of the revenue. It does affect a lot of these things.
Do you know there are doctors, except you have your private practice, and don't make up to 1 million naira monthly?
What's that?
Who?
Doctors.
In Nigeria.
In Nigeria.
1 million naira when?
No,
They don't.
Where are you going
A
to
month
make
or a
that
year?
from?
A month.
So it's funny.
A month
Is
is
what are you talking about? That's
$3,000.
$3,000 for God's sake.
No, where are you going to make that
1
from?
million naira.
Now who's going to pay you? Who's going to pay to you?
But they can afford to fly to the United States, to fly to Ghana,
Yes, because
doctors. They spend 9
They
years.
gave a shot to the minister's mother, who appreciated them with 15 million naira. That's different from what they earn
Oh, yes.
as doctors.
Oh, yes.
Nigerian lawyers don't make 30,000 naira a month. Most of them don't even have a job.
I learned they can't even solicit for business.
Now, let me explain something to you about the healthcare system. I happen to be one of those very few people that was in the healthcare. I started my life as a nurse. I was one of the first male nurses in Nigeria. And I was also one of the people that refused to go back to Nigeria after I came to America. I played tennis. I traveled a little bit to play tennis. After I stopped playing, I graduated. I never went back to Nigeria until my wife insisted I had to go back. That the family is thinking that she's the one that's
it's holding you down.
So I said, okay, fine, I'll go. And I went. And of course, you're curious. The first place I went was the General Hospital in Lagos. I walked into the General Hospital, and I'm not joking. It looked like I walked out in 1979, and I walked right back in 1979. Nothing has
It will
changed.
be worse.
It's even
It'll be
worse
worse.
because
It will
now
be
the
worse.
patients bring their own bed sheets. The patients bring their own food.
Fan and their own fan.
I saw.
Can you imagine that?
Can you imagine that? I did not realize. Two things I did not realize growing up in Nigeria. I did not realize there was no air conditioning in our hospitals.
No.
That's a no-no. That's number one. I did not realize there's no curb on Echo Bridge. And Echo Bridge to me was the eighth wonder of the world. And I would drive Echo Bridge to go to work every night, And then the first time I got back on Echo, I said, where's the curb? 2 lanes, that's it. Because I have never been outside Nigeria at that point. And to me, that was one big
Jim.
So where we are is our lack of value for life.
True.
Is affecting our healthcare system. I will tell you this. Even when I have fired drivers within hours, the way they drive, because I'll ask them, do you guys think that if you die in Nigeria, you're going to wake up in Ghana? They have no value for life. So they don't see anything wrong with their healthcare system. You will see a Nigerian group of young men. They will see Fulani herdsmen up there shooting and killing people. They'll be running towards it.
They want to take a picture or record for social media.
But they have guns. And these people are not trained. Sometimes gun shoots the person. You think you are shooting the gun, but the gun is going, the gun is going like this, and it can hit you, and they will be running towards it. Where we are right now in Nigeria is this. Stop talking about the government. We must stop talking about Nigeria. Time to start talking about Nigerians. Because the solution,
And take ownership.
the solution is in our hands. It is up to us now. Get rid of the bad leaders. You can do it at the ballot box. Yes, you can. Get rid of the bad system. You can do it at the ballot box. Just like I said, you need one person to build a turbine, and you can change the history of Nigeria with power. Once you have power, you can go home. Instead of doing AI, you can start canning pineapples. If you can pineapples, you sell it all over Africa. It will last forever before you will not spoil on the vine. Nigeria throws away 2.5 billion tons of pineapple every year.
Imagine.
Because there's no road to take it to the port or to take it to the
pineapple
airport.
from.
So those are the kind of infrastructure we're talking about.
That's what
right?
we're talking
Power,
about. You
rail.
need to stay away from Dangote and its fertilizers. Because fertilizer will only make a yam bigger. People cannot afford the small yam already. You give them fertilizer, now it becomes bigger.
So they will
You need
not
to
even-
double the farm size. If you double the farm, you produce 2 yams. You slash the price. You double it again, you produce 4 yams.
Everything's about numbers.
Exactly.
Numbers,
the price goes down again.
numbers.
When everybody is full, and now we start having first world medical problems. Because right now we still have primitive problems in Nigeria. Tetanus, malaria, meningitis, these are primitive issues.
Typhoid.
There's no typhoid. The doctors they just get tired of calling it malaria. They say, you want to hear you have typhoid? Okay, you have typhoid. Doctors will tell you have typhoid because that's what you want to hear.
Well, that's what, yeah. I mean, you're
Typhoid is
So-
very dangerous.
Gentlemen,
But Nigerians they don't want to hear anything.
there are so many things I want us to talk about. So many things, and I think I for one, I've learned so much. I am learning also to keep my mind open for opportunities to come and that are already in existence and whatnot. But then, we've emphasized on, or rather talked about, all these things happening in Nigeria that are affecting us adversely, right? They are still what we call the beauty of that nation. Like we have a culture, the traditions, even the banking sector. It could be crazy, but the security of the banking industry in Nigeria is much more better than that of many countries in the world. With the system of the token system is very well secured. The #737 something like that is very, very well secured. There are other things that that we can talk about. The beauty of our nation. Now I want us to celebrate. Look at Nigeria at 59. There's something to talk about. You must have seen something that made you feel like, you know what, I think I can make a change in this country, which was why you ran as for the position of a president in Nigeria. Can we talk about some of these things that you can look back to and say, I think in the next 5 years, 10 years, we will improve on this if we do this? I would start with you, Prof.
Well, look, for me, it's very, very simple. I mean, I happen to be, I call myself a child of our independence. I'm also 59. And I don't draw a parallel of myself and the country, but I do have that, that belief that, that Nigeria is capable of really doing great things. But with what I have learned in North America generally, you've got to be patient. You've got to plan and be patient. Things just don't come to you by luck or by just because you desire. You've got to plan for it. I mean, we've talked about owning a mortgage and all that. There's a system to the madness even here in America. And that is what we don't have. And that is what we have refused to build. Our systems are just not functional enough for anybody to get anything done. And when we do say we have a plan, we're looking at it for it to be successful the very next day. It doesn't work like that. It hasn't worked like that in my own 59 years.
Yeah,
life.
we live for now.
You know, you go through school, you do this, you do that, you know, you plan your life and, you know, and you hope for the best. I didn't think of certain things and I'm going to get it the next day. That's not the way I found that life works. And I think as Nigerians, just like I said, let's stop thinking about Nigeria. Let's start thinking about Nigerians. And really, let's start thinking as Nigerians. And then take our experience really in life. Because I always say that life is also economics. You know, there's limited resources that we have. We all would love to have not Dangote kind of money, Microsoft kind of money. But even that is even limited. You know, so you have to work on a plan and let your plan be really an extension of you as a person. That is what Nigerians should look forward to. You know, until we get the leadership, like he's continuously insisted, we need leadership that can really not see the future, but plan for a future for Nigerians and not for Nigeria, for Nigerians, because people is what constitute that entity.
Mr.
That's called Nigeria.
I think we need to have more buy-in and see the country as our country. You know, the way the American says, my country.
There's a pride in it.
Yes, there's a pride. When you have a buy-in into something, you have an interest in the well-being, in the survival of that. You know, because right now it seems like we see Nigeria as an external entity that people just continue to take from. Nobody's really willing to put back in. I personally believe that Nigeria is a blessed country, and the strength of Nigeria is what makes Nigeria now, the diversity. You know, we can use that as a strength and not as a detraction.
You know, before I let you speak, sir, when Air Peace evacuated some people out of South Africa, upon landing in Nigeria, they did not see the Yoruba or the Hausa. By the way, the CEO was an Igbo man, or an Hausa or a Yoruba guy or an Igbo guy. You know, they saw Nigeria, and they sang this song.
You know, they saw Nigerians.
They saw Nigerians, yeah, and they then our national anthem came to play. They sang or recited the national anthem, and then there were people shedding tears. For once in my lifetime, I felt like this makes a lot of sense. They saw beyond everything else, you know. Sir, what is your take on where the future of Nigeria is?
My take is very simple because I see Nigeria making a huge turn in the next 4 years. And I will let you reference back to 2 industries in Nigeria. Our movie industry and our music industry. These are 2 areas of the Nigerian society controlled entirely by the youth of Nigeria and private sector. So in America, the original motto before In God We Trust was E pluribus unum, out of many, one. He was talking about the collective nature of the Americans as one people. I have corrupted that saying to Nigeria to say, out of many, we need one. Out of the 200 million or 150 billion, like Professor said, we are looking for one leader with a vision. A vision that will allow the youth of Nigeria to use their innovation and ingenuity to catapult us to the next level.
And they will not be seen as competition.
You have to have a sense of giving legacy to the future generation to lead. If you don't have the sense that this country is not yours to own but to lease and hand over to the next tenants, if you don't see leadership from that perspective, you are sitting in the wrong seat.
And come to think of it, the youth, like you said, maybe it was you that said it, that the industry, the movie and the entertainment industry, they are controlled by the youth
They-
and the private sector.
They have taken
And
it
they are putting Nigeria on the map all over the world.
and they can do that anywhere else. You just got to give them the support
That is needed.
and the opportunity and the freedom to explore. You do that for the Nigerian youth. When I was on the campaign trail, I would say this to them. I said, I've lived in America for 40 years. I've seen what the ingenuity of the American youth is. But I can still tell you, the American youth is dominated by the Nigerian American youth. Now, give me the opportunity to go to battle with either the American youth or the Nigerian youth in Nigeria. I'll take the Nigerian youth in Nigeria.
Any day.
So we have what we need already. We need that one person.
The leader.
Oh my goodness, I would love that opportunity.
Before we
I'm
go,
not gonna lie.
I know
I
my
would
time.
love
My
that
time is fast
opportunity.
spent.
Give me 4 years.
1 minute each. 1 minute each. Advice for Nigerians, not in diaspora, but back at home.
We have to do both because they're
Intertwined.
Okay,
My advice is,
that is your camera.
my advice is that this is our country, and we have to hand something back, because actually the Nigeria that my parents handed over to me is much better than what I'm going to hand over to my.
We can still fix that. We
So-
hope to be able to fix that, right?
So yes, we just have to know that this is ours to maintain and preserve and hand over to the next generation.
Prof.
Yeah, my quick advice also, almost on the same line with yours, is that we've got to show a little bit more respect to the country. I grew up respecting that country. I did say that NTA or whatever came on air at 5 o'clock in 1964, 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
And when they came on, you know,
With
you
the
had
multicolor-
the Nigerian flag
Color
waving, and
For
then
about 30
the
minutes,
national
Nigerian
anthem.
national will be sung. Yes.
And I don't know where it came from, but we would all stand up
Hey.
in our living room.
Hey.
Just the
My hand
we
would be
were
on my
only three
chest
of-
like
we
this. I
didn't even know
remember.
about hand on the chest. We just stand up and sang along with the national anthem.
Bang, bang,
We respected
bang,
it,
bang,
and that gave me
I
that
remember.
continuous respect for the country. Until things started fading away to a place and I said, there's nothing that this country is providing for me. I was one of those that left this country. I'd come here for a master's earlier. I went back to the country because I had a business. I had what I was doing. But eventually I said, this country is going to be tough. I didn't see it going anywhere, and I didn't see people making the right moves to make it become a positive place. So I was not one of those that left and said, no, I'm going right back. I said, I ran away from that country. I don't want people to run away if we have a good system, because it's 200 million people, but let's start to show respect back to that country. And that no matter how much I disagree with how things are in that country, it's one thing I still try to do. I try to respect it as a country, because it could one day really become a great country.
Sir, your advice for...
My advice really is something that I'm trying to live every day now, and let me look into the camera and talk to the people in the diaspora. Imagine if I should tell you that every April, or between January and April every year, you shouldn't collect a tax return. How would you feel? You're not going to like it. So, me telling this person in Nigeria not to collect 4,000 naira from the politicians every 4 years, it's like me telling you not to collect a tax return. They plan for that money. They expect that money every 4 years. They have ideas what they're going to do with that money. How do we get them to not take that money? Can you hire one person in Nigeria? Those of you watching me right now. Employ one Nigerian for $1 a day, not including weekends. That's only $250 a year. That Nigerian that you employ will vote for a candidate that you endorse. And that candidate will bring your vision to Nigeria and help the innovation of the youth improve Nigeria. That's my suggestion. If you are able to employ a Nigerian for $1 a day, contact the program and see what we can do together. Let's move Nigeria to the next level. Thank
Right.
you.
So yeah, you've heard it all. You have heard it all. We have talked about everything almost, wrong with Nigeria. And we've also talked about what we can also do to fix our nation, Nigeria. We love her so dearly. I hope you do too. There's still so much to do. There's a lot of people are willing to move back, to give back, as a matter of fact, to do so much for that country. I learned there are, several avenues where you can give back. But in order for you to do that, you have to first want to know about the country. You have to be inquisitive. You have to want to, understand how the system works over there, which is one of the reasons why you shouldn't be too far from what we call home. Because no matter where you are in the world, you are still a Nigerian first before you became whatever citizen you. If they ask you your country, like I'm carrying a U.S. passport and also a Nigerian passport. But my U.S. passport, you said my place of birth is still Lagos, Nigeria. So I'm first Nigerian before I became an American. And I'm willing to give back, like so many of us are willing to give back. I hope you've learned so much. I hope this will change your perspective, your minds about the way things are in Nigeria. It is not all bad, but we can fix this. Like Mr. Ashala said earlier, 2023 is going to be a game changer. I hope you're ready to make that change. I am. And I think and I hope and I pray that I'll be in Nigeria to cast my vote. Get everything you need to make the right decisions. Until next time, we want to wish Nigeria a happy 59th Independence Day. Stay out of trouble and have fun. We enjoy. Until next time, take care.